They keep calling it General Hospital, yet the hospital is basically a decorative prop at this point, and this episode proves exactly when the show stopped being about medicine and started being about control. If awards were actually handed out for doing something other than staring meaningfully into the middle distance, Gio would be leaving this episode with a nomination tucked under his perfectly controlled bow arm. The violin performance of Oh Holy Night wasn't just technically beautiful, it was the kind of scene engineered to reduce even disciplined viewers to tears, and it succeeded. The musicality landed, the emotion landed, and the facial expressions alone did more storytelling than some characters manage in an entire arc. When a soap pulls off holiday sentiment without tipping into pure sugar, it deserves credit. Especially when it remembers that a Christmas episode is allowed to feel like Christmas instead of a hostage negotiation with tinsel. And then there is this matter of Scout. Because nothing says seasonal warmth quite like a grown man weaponizing custody and calling it concern. Keeping Scout away from her family is not complicated. It is cruel. The child belongs with the people who actually constitute her world, Grandma Alexis, and her aunts Christina and Molly. In a rare moment of functional judgment, Willow finally said the quiet part out loud and pushed the situation in the direction it should have been heading all along. It is almost alarming how effective the story becomes when characters behave like humans instead of plot devices. The Quartermaines, meanwhile, managed something nearly mythical, a holiday that didn't collapse under the weight of their own chaos. This episode played like one of the best Christmas storylines in daytime in a long time. Warm, sharp, and emotionally coherent. Sunny ending up functionally folded into the Quartermaine orbit is the kind of irony the show should bottle and sell. It is the inevitable outcome everyone pretends is shocking. Somewhere, Edward Quartermaine is presumably spinning with indignation, which only improves the moment. Even the smaller beats worked. Leo's innocence cutting through the family tension was the precise reminder this ensemble needs, that sincerity still exists in Port Charles, even if it has to fight for screen time. Not everything landed cleanly, of course, because the show remains determined to test how far it can drift from its own premise. General Hospital increasingly behaves as though the hospital is an optional set decoration, and the series is primarily a vehicle for Drew and Sidwell. The shift is not subtle. The result is a tone where the traditional good guy has become an endangered species, and the moral center feels permanently under renovation. The solution is not complicated. Let the so-called good guys win once in a while. Sunny and Jason have historically operated as the town's blunt instruments against worse threats. Whatever label gets slapped on them, they have protected Port Charles when no one else could. Watching the show forget its own greatness in favor of endless dominance by the current villains is not evolution. It is creative amnesia. As for the episode's suspicious beats, Kevin did not read as Kevin. The performance raised the kind of questions that soaps love and audiences dread. Brainwashing is the obvious possibility. Collusion with Sidwell is the cynical one. And the truly extravagant option is a resurrection twist. Ryan back from the dead, courtesy of Sidwell's cold fusion experiments, perhaps with a conveniently upgraded hand. The show has earned the side-eye, so none of these can be dismissed. Similarly, a handshake that was expected to signal tension instead played as relief. Less worry than release, suggesting alliances are shifting in plain sight, while other characters remain proudly oblivious. The sentimentality was not limited to music and family either. Carly's actions regarding Charlotte were presented with enough emotional clarity to bring an adult man to tears, which is either an impressive feat of writing or a reminder of how starved the canvas has been for uncomplicated compassion. The same goes for the gesture toward Gio. Sunny and Ned securing a Guarneri, casually as one does, was an extravagance with a purpose. For context, a Guarneri sits among the most expensive violins in the world, while the Stradivarius often claims the very top. Both live in the realm of costs millions, which makes the moment both generous and faintly absurd in the way soaps excel at being. Still, the point landed. Gio mattered enough for someone to show up with something priceless and say it without words. Naturally, the episode could not resist a few side notes that deserve their own glare. Gio's makeup styling is drifting into the unfortunate territory where foundation becomes a mask, and the lips are blended into the same shade as the skin, creating the impression of someone who has recently met neither sunlight nor iron supplements. Also worth noting, Ned and Olivia, husband and wife, being revealed as the grandparents of their newfound grandson Gio, is exactly the kind of family tree twist that makes the Quartermaines feel less like a lineage and more like a long-running social experiment. Then there are the loose ends viewers are right to tug. Someone should put Willow under oath and ask a basic question. Did she move Daisy? Because in Port Charles, objects do not relocate themselves unless a secret, a crime, or a new storyline demands it. And if the current custody situation continues to be treated as acceptable, the darkly logical escalation is obvious. Christina might as well abduct Scout and raise her somewhere far away from Port Charles, since the town keeps proving it cannot be trusted to behave like a community. The episode also included a quiet plea for decency that deserves to be echoed. Aging is not a character flaw, and it is not a moral failing. Complaints about older actors looking terrible say less about the performers and more about the ugliness of the commentary. Time moves forward, and cosmetic intervention has limits. The show is better served when attention stays on performance, not punishment for existing long enough to have a career. Finally, there is nostalgia, because this series used to understand ritual. The memory of Dr. Hardy reading The Night Before Christmas to the children on Christmas Eve is not just sentiment. It is a reminder of when the holiday episodes built community, rather than merely staging a themed showdown. This year's installment came closer than most have in a while. Music that earned the tears, family moments that mattered, and just enough irony to keep the sugar from curdling. The only truly missing ingredient was a small, indulgent flourish. Cody watching a movie with the Davis girls, with the briefest hint that it was a Hallmark feature starring Ryan Pavey or Cameron Matheson. Because if the show is going to deliver a hot fudge sundae Christmas, it might as well add the cherry properly. General Hospital doesn't have a cheating problem, it has a hypocrisy problem, and the Portia versus Willow double standard proves it. The holiday episode delivered its required quota of sentimental manipulation, and it worked. Gio's violin performance was staged with the precision of a network-approved tear duct trigger, and, annoyingly, it succeeded. Credit where it's due. It was refreshing to see an actual new General Hospital episode air on a Friday at this time of year, and the cast's effort landed with the intended warmth. Unfortunately, the goodwill immediately collides with the ongoing spectacle of the Portia pile-on, which has become less family concern and more group audition for moral superiority. The outrage is wildly inflated for a situation that occurred during a separation, under extreme stress, and the reaction reads as performative condemnation rather than anything resembling love, loyalty, or basic decency. A whole family turning punitive over complicated adult choices is not devotion. It is theatrics with a sanctimonious script. Meanwhile, Trina's emotional register continues to skew toward preteen melodrama, an adult collapsing as though personally betrayed by the concept of divorce, with all the composure of someone discovering heartbreak for the first time. The irony is that the most childish behavior is rarely coming from the characters who are actually children. As if that were not enough, the show's relationship map remains a fog machine. Leo's family connections still invite confusion, with the lingering question of where everyone neatly fits. Ava's role as aunt by virtue of Julian Jerome being Leo's father, Lucas positioned as brother, Sam as sister, an impressive web of relations that somehow still feels like it was assembled by throwing darts at a corkboard. Speaking of vanishing acts, Rick's alleged redemption has all the follow-through of a seasonal plot device. After being framed as changed, he promptly goes silent and skips the holidays, despite story logic suggesting he should have been present at Sunny's Christmas. Dante's holiday whereabouts are equally murky, with the awkward sense that he missed key family moments, particularly the Quartermaine gathering that would logically include Gio's performance, unless absence is now too. He shows preferred method of characterization. Ava's choices invite their own critique. Conspicuously missing Christmas with her daughter while maintaining a reliable commitment to being out drinking, is not exactly a portrait of maternal prioritization. Nor is it charming that Avery appears to have been misplaced entirely, while Donna receives the bulk of the on-screen acknowledgement, as if the child roster has been quietly downsized for convenience. Then there is the Drew-Willow situation, which has become a cautionary tale about what happens when revenge becomes a personality, and everyone around it starts enabling. Willow having to talk Drew into caring about his own daughter, rather than his vendetta, should not be framed as romantic complexity. It should be treated as the blaring alarm it is. The desire to get her away from him makes sense, because the dynamic reads less like love and more like emotional captivity dressed up as devotion. And yet, in the same breath, the moral outrage in the audience's discourse is selectively applied. Willow's kiss is labeled cheating. Curtis's kiss with Jordan somehow becomes a footnote. Portia is branded the villain by default. Custody arguments get dressed up as principled concern. Willow is condemned for exposing children to Drew, while the same moral judges shrug at Michael bringing those same children around Sonny and Jason, both with blood on their hands in the show's own canon. The hypocrisy is not subtle. It is the point. The slut-shaming is equally incoherent. Willow is dragged for sleeping with an uncle, while Sonny's history with Alexis and Sam is treated as legacy intrigue, and Carly's revenge-fueled relationships, Tony then, and now sleeping with Jack as retaliation, are conveniently waved through. Apparently, scandal is only scandal when the wrong woman does it. Chase, too, is trapped in a familiar loop. Perpetual jealousy of Michael, perpetual martyrdom over Willow, perpetual refusal to accept that she never loved him the way he demanded. The marriage reads as obligation and pity more than romance, nudged into existence by pressure and deathbed sentimentality, and his repeated career sacrifices have bought him exactly what such sacrifices usually buy: nothing. The blunt truth remains that Willow did not want him then, does not want him now, and he continues to mistake effort for entitlement. On the interpersonal front, Pascal's visible discomfort around Lucas and Marco raises its own red flag. The pointed looks suggest judgment, interference, or at minimum a hostility that the scene did not bother to disguise. Despite the chaos, the show did manage genuine holiday resonance beyond the violin. Scout finally seeing her family and Charlotte seeing her father hit the emotional beats cleanly. Because reunions, unlike moral tribunals, are still where this series can reliably deliver. Even so, sentiment does not absolve the larger mess, particularly Willow's ongoing campaign to be credited as a good mother for doing one decent thing for someone else's child, while repeatedly failing to put her own children first since their father was burned. That is not redemption, it is a public relations attempt. The only proposed fix that actually matches the severity of her unraveling is the drastic one: institutionalization at Ferncliff as an act of responsibility, acknowledging that her current state is harmful to her children. Finally, a real-world curiosity slips into the conversation with Cameron Matheson, reportedly signing with GF, a network that has drawn backlash for traditional family branding and stated content boundaries. Unless those boundaries have quietly shifted, the optics remain questionable, and as the show barrels forward, the teaser machine keeps churning. Scout is set to deliver a shocking truth about Drew on Monday, December 29th, supposedly changing everything for Willow. Given the current trajectory, shocking will likely mean obvious to everyone except the characters, but at this point, even predictability would be a mercy compared to the selective outrage, disappearing relatives, and moral logic that changes depending on who is speaking. They're calling it holiday drama. It's not. It's emotional sabotage wrapped in Christmas lights. General Hospital continues to demonstrate its most reliable talent, turning one character's personality into a public service announcement for viewer fatigue. Drew, in particular, has been written with such relentless bitterness that even his harmless holiday movie appearances reportedly become unwatchable by association. When a daytime script makes an actor's other projects feel tainted, that is not character depth, it is brand damage. Either allow the man a rare, accidental moment of compassion, or do what soaps have always done best: write him out with brisk efficiency. Of course, this is the same narrative ecosystem where a child is poised to deliver a shocking truth about Drew to Willow, because nothing says wholesome seasonal programming like weaponized revelations from the elementary school set. Meanwhile, Drew remains committed to the particularly grim hobby of isolating Scout from her mother's family, as if cruelty were a parenting style. The only glimmer of basic decency appears when Willow, of all people, has to explain that barring Scout from Alexis, Christina, and Molly is wrong and cruel, and then personally facilitates a visit to Alexis's house. It is difficult to miss the implication. The adults with the most power keep choosing pettiness, while the people already bruised by the story are tasked with cleaning up the mess. The Quartermain holiday scenes, at least, deliver what the show does well: family chaos with genuine emotional undercurrent. The Christmas gathering is framed not as a glossy reset, but as a celebration still haunted by Monica's death, especially for Tracy, whose grief actually reads like grief. Cody's reminder that Tracy is still blessed with the loved ones who remain lands precisely because the show does not pretend loss evaporates on cue. In the midst of this, the children provide the kind of warmth soaps cannot fake. Leo and Wiley are presented as genuinely adorable, complete with the small-scale drama of a discovered frog that never makes it inside the main house. Even the detail of Leo finding the violin Ned and Sunny bought for Gio, and Gio working up to playing again, feels like a rare moment of earned tenderness. And then Sunny arrives, because General Hospital cannot resist the gravitational pull of a man who can walk into any room and instantly reorder the moral furniture. Michael invites him, Wiley offers a Christmas cookie, and Sunny dispenses the kind of advice that passes for wisdom in Port Charles. Trials come with surprises, so do not get comfortable. Yet even as the show tries to package these moments as grandfatherly charm, an unresolved discomfort lingers. Sunny hugging AJ's grandson in Monica's house is still, for some viewers, a scene that will never sit right. The writing can ask the audience to move on. It cannot force the emotional math to balance. That discomfort intensifies with a quieter observation. Sunny's hand appears to shake while taking a cookie from Wiley's plate, prompting immediate concern about Maurice Bernard's health. Soaps trade in melodrama, but audiences can still tell the difference between performance and something that looks worryingly real. The hope, plainly, is that it is nothing. While the show juggles grief and family, it also continues its hobby of procedural amnesia. Alexis is a lawyer. New York has grandparent rights statutes, yet the story apparently refuses to let her deploy the most obvious legal tool available. Either there is a reason, or the plot is being protected from logic, again. The same plot first, coherence later. Energy shows up in smaller continuity gaps. Dante allegedly does not even know that Gio and Brooklyn have made up, implying the reconciliation may have occurred off-screen. Chase is conspicuously absent from the Quartermain festivities with Brooklyn, despite no apparent work obligation. These are not nitpicks, they are symptoms of a show that too often treats relationships like interchangeable props. The show's handling of legacy and loss also draws scrutiny. There is frustration that Denise Alexander, Leslie Weber, has not been properly honored. Even as spoilers suggest, the series will air an older episode of Anthony Geary's departure to pay tribute to Luke. At the same time, a blunt counter-argument is gaining traction. Not every real-life passing demands a full in-show tribute that halts the narrative. A simple, in memory of dedication photo at the beginning or end can be respectful and sufficient, especially when the character is not dead on screen or has been absent, effectively forgotten, or already long gone within the story. The show is not obligated to stop and reconfigure itself every time the real world intrudes, and audiences are not obligated to pretend this is an easy balance. If General Hospital is struggling to balance its tributes, it has no trouble staging its villains. Sidwell throws a holiday party to underline his self-image as king of the season, while Sunny calmly plots to return him to reality, because arrogance is always more entertaining when it is about to be punctured. Lucy Coe, predictably, is written as romantically incapacitated. Blind, lovesick, delighted by diamond earrings, and immediately jealous when Sidwell directs attention toward Ava. Ava, meanwhile, does what Ava does: show up, look stunning, and make other people behave irrationally in her orbit. On the political side of the scheming, Drew appears at Sidwell's party because Sidwell wants Jordan to help keep him re-elected, particularly if Willow ends up jailed for shooting Drew. The story is practically daring the audience to decide which is more distasteful, the manipulation, or how casually it is treated as a campaign strategy. The younger set keeps the plot moving, whether the adults deserve it or not. Charlotte tells Rocco she saw Valentine, raising the ever-soap-appropriate fear that little Ace could accidentally expose the secret. Scout's loneliness is emphasized, missing Alexis and her aunts, while Willow's Christmas pain is similarly foregrounded as she misses Wiley and Amelia. The show wants sympathy for Willow, and, inconveniently for anyone invested in purely punitive storytelling, it earns at least a sliver of it. The most revealing conflicts, though, are not always on screen. Viewer commentary about a same-sex couple kissing cuts through with unsparing clarity. Outrage framed as Christian values rings hollow when those same voices tolerate, without comparable fury, unmarried sex, adultery, gangsters, kidnappings, murder, blackmail, and every other more. Catastrophe the genre serves daily. Selective offense is not conviction. It is a preference, and the preference has a name. Moral consistency is either practiced across the board, or it is simply a costume. Elsewhere, the fandom's wish list remains refreshingly straightforward. Bring Felix back. Get all the children, everyone 18 and under, for a group shot. Resolve the lingering questions. How long is Drew going to use that cane? Should Charlotte have told Rocco she saw her father? Why are key beats apparently happening off-screen? And, because soap audiences are nothing if not culturally curious, there is genuine bafflement about Boxing Day parties, a concept that reads strange from an Australian perspective, where Boxing Day is more associated with shopping than formal celebration. Finally, the broader soap-adjacent ecosystem hums along. Erica Slezak appears in a movie titled Song Sung Blue. Julian is available in a Netflix holiday film, Christmas at the Chalet. It is a reminder that actors can still be charming elsewhere, sometimes in spite of what their daytime scripts ask them to embody. In short, General Hospital is currently operating as both drama and stress test, of continuity, of moral coherence, of character integrity, and of how much audience patience can be spent before the writers remember that even villains need texture and even heroes need accountability. It can still deliver affecting family moments and genuine warmth, but it undermines itself when it confuses cruelty for complexity and omission for intrigue. Stop calling this a custody battle. It's emotional sabotage with paperwork. The current state of this storyline is not drama. It is a slow, meticulous exercise in watching characters behave as though empathy is an optional subscription service, one that Drew, in particular, canceled years ago. Drew's treatment of Scout is being framed with the usual sentimental fog, but the underlying implication is uglier and far more revealing. This is not protection, it is projection. The subtext is blunt. Drew appears to want his daughter to learn the particular kind of loneliness he has carried for years, as if emotional deprivation is a family heirloom that must be passed down. Whatever history of rejection or estrangement may have shaped him, deserved or not, those old injuries are clearly resurfacing. The only difference is that now they are being weaponized through custody decisions and calculated isolation. And yes, the legal system can take whatever side it wants. The moral ledger is not confused. After a year of escalating misconduct capped by blackmailing Portia, the argument that Scout belongs with Alexis and Molly reads less like a hot take and more like the first rational sentence anyone has managed to produce in this mess. If the adults in Scout's orbit are going to be flawed, at least let them be flawed without actively engineering a child's emotional abandonment. Meanwhile, the show's family tree continues to perform acrobatics that would make a genealogist resign on principle. Leo being younger than Gio while also being Gio's uncle is the kind of detail that sounds like a writer's room dare. Add the additional twist of Gio'S grandparents, on both sides, being romantically involved, and the result is not layered storytelling. It is relational origami. For those keeping score, Gio is also apparently part British by association through Alan, Tracy, Ned, Lila, and Edward. Because if there is one thing soap logic loves, it is national identity by conversational proximity. Then there is the Resurrection Industrial Complex, always open for business. The theory that Sam returns and is the one who shot Drew is not only plausible, it is practically a genre requirement. The motive writes itself, rage over Scout being kept from the wider family, plus a personal detail. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star as a shared ringtone. That conveniently explains why Trina and Kai heard it. The so-called death is equally easy to reverse because the narrative already laid the groundwork. The absence of an unequivocal final moment, a body that could be a look-alike, and the increasingly fashionable option of hostage elsewhere. If Sidwell is involved, all the better. Nothing says serious plot like vaguely ominous off-screen experimentation and the casual suggestion of cloning. On a different channel of chaos, the holiday episode managed to spark outrage by staging a same-sex kiss while Oh Holy Night played underneath. The complaint is delivered as a matter of religious offense, that the pairing of a sacred song with a romantic moment between Lucas and Marco is blasphemous, sacrilegious, and unnecessary, particularly on Christmas. The demand, predictably, is not for nuance, but for repentance. Whether or not the show intended provocation, it certainly achieved it. Not all developments were drenched in melodrama, though the bar is low. Willow briefly reverted to a more grounded version of herself, competent, compassionate, and astonishingly capable of making a decent choice. Helping Scout was the right move and, in a rare moment of emotional clarity, Scout's reaction landed hard enough to draw real sympathy. Of course, trust does not regenerate overnight, but compared to the recent spiral, even basic responsibility reads like character growth. Elsewhere, the show continues its proud tradition of selective amnesia. Avery's absence is noted with the blunt sadness it deserves. A child vanishes from the narrative, while adults party on as if continuity is a rumor. Over in the nostalgia department, Sunny and Ned's encounter played like a deliberate callback right down to the classic exchange. Ned reports, flatly, that Sunny hit him. Brenda asks why. Sunny claims it was because Ned hit first. It is the kind of soap dialogue that never ages, because it never evolves. The aesthetic commentary, at least, stays grounded in reality. Ava's green dress was striking enough to inspire an immediate hunt for its designer, which is arguably the most productive impulse anyone had all episode. There is also a small but telling visual detail, a noticeable mark, like a deep scratch, near Alexis's right ear, partially concealed but still visible, prompting curiosity about whether it is story-related, a makeup choice, or simply an unaddressed continuity issue. And finally, beneath the louder plot machinery, the emotional beats still matter when the show allows them to. Watching Brooklyn hesitate on the edge of comfort, wanting to hug Gio, to signal that things will be okay, was one of those moments that soaps do well when they stop trying to outsmart themselves. The bigger irony is that all of this could be compelling if it were handled with discipline. Instead, the narrative keeps bouncing between cruelty masquerading as parenting, convoluted bloodline trivia, resurrection speculation, and holiday controversy, while the audience is left doing the work the characters refuse to do, remembering what happened, noticing what's missing, and trying to locate a moral center in a story that treats one as optional. Everyone's crying over the violin, but the real story is how the adults keep failing the kids on purpose. Drew choosing the holidays as the ideal time to conduct an angry, trauma-soaked legal phone call in front of his child is certainly a creative interpretation of family-friendly, if the goal is to raise a future adult who flinches at ringtones, and it fits neatly with the broader pattern. The same man was apparently prepared to leave Scout at home with a nanny on a holiday, not out of necessity, but as a petty flourish aimed at Alexis. Fortunately, Willow displayed the rare skill of saying the obvious out loud. Yes, he really is awful. Before Scout became collateral damage in yet another adult power play dressed up as principal. Meanwhile, Carly's ongoing commitment to romantic musical chairs continues to be treated as a personality, when it might be time to try something radical, focusing on Donna, a child who too often seems to exist in the margins of her own mother's life. Alexis, for her part, is a lawyer, an actual lawyer, so the performance of confusion around basic legal realities is less endearing grandma advocacy and more please reread the law you bill people to interpret, especially when grandparent rights are being discussed like a rumor instead of a statute. If Curtis's taste in partners and alliances were a stock portfolio, it would come with a warning label. The growing suspicion that Jordan could go dark while working for Sidwell is not paranoia so much as a reasonable forecast, given the company she's keeping. And Portia, never one to miss an opportunity to convert a situation into a credibility crisis, remains the show's most consistent supplier of deceit. The lying is not subtle, the aftermath is not pretty, and the destruction of her own family reads less like tragedy and more like inevitability. The courtroom questioning was deserved, the cracks showed, and that look when Curtis praised truth on the stand did not suggest relief. It suggested inventory management. The unresolved questions are piling up. Uncertainty about the baby's paternity, whether she will tell the truth, and the lingering suspicion that she may know more about Drew's shooting than she admits, perhaps about the gun, perhaps about the shooter, perhaps about both, especially after the repeated insistence that she did not shoot him. It would be refreshing if the truth surfaced before another lie is staged as a courageous confession. In contrast, the episode's emotional architecture actually worked. Charlotte reuniting with Valentine, Scout finally seeing her family, and Gio returning to the violin created the sort of sincere pull that soaps occasionally remember they can deliver without detonating another secret. Leo finding the violin and the family's gentle, cautious support, offering an exit if Gio wasn't ready, while the children's innocence insisted he could be, built to a quiet crescendo, culminating in "Oh Holy Night," played with enough tenderness to make even the most hardened viewer briefly forget the genre's addiction to misery. Cody, notably, continues to come off as effortlessly good with kids and life outside the usual indoor melodrama, which is more than can be said for several adults who treat children as props. The small details landed too, including the visible England flag in the Cassadine home, because nothing says charming domestic warmth like a reminder that the family decor budget includes geopolitical signaling. Sonny's omnipresence at gatherings large and small is increasingly hard to read as community pillar and easier to read as man with nowhere else to be, especially since an older version of him would not have strolled into Laura's world so casually, even with today's connections. The absence of Jason and his son only sharpened the oddity, as if some essential family math was left unfinished. Still, Laura and Sonny's friendship played surprisingly well, and Tracy allowing him into the house, despite years of dislike, was a welcome nod to grudges occasionally yielding to reality. Gio receiving the violin, with help from Sonny and Ned, Brooklyn and the family rallying behind him, and Willow escorting Scout to reconnect with Alexis, Christina, and Molly gave the hour a rare sense of coherence. People behaving like family instead of rival factions. Even Willow's dress managed to be memorable for the right reason. Pretty, understated, and not a metaphor for impending doom. Nina, meanwhile, continues to stand out as the show's strongest performer, the kind of actor who can make even chaotic writing look deliberate. Loyalty to her is less a team sport and more a recognition of competence. Charlotte's decision to let Rocco know she saw her father, right in front of Ace, was the sort of reckless disclosure that keeps secrets alive only long enough to do maximum damage, which is the show's favorite scheduling strategy. With familiar faces returning and the speculation about Blackie resurfacing, the stage is set for more nostalgia, especially since the question still hangs in the air about when the show plans to air a tribute to Luke Spencer and Tony Geary, a moment that would be both earned and overdue. And that is the irony. When the series stops manufacturing cruelty for sport and instead lets characters experience something genuinely holy, even briefly, the heartstrings practically pull themselves. General Hospital didn't get emotional. It weaponized sentiment on purpose, and it worked. For a show that has made an art form out of emotional whiplash, this episode decided to be almost offensively effective. The closing stretch, Scout appearing at Alexis's and the Davis girls' dynamic snapping into focus, landed with the kind of quiet weight daytime television usually teases and then dodges. And then, as if subtlety were illegal, Gio'S violin performance arrived to make sure any remaining composure was promptly confiscated. Charlotte getting to see her father followed suit, because apparently the production memo for the day read, "No dry eyes, no exceptions." Even Willow, a character not always known for immaculate judgment, managed to do something undeniably right by taking Scout to see her grandmother, an unexpectedly competent move that hints at a redemption arc forming, whether the audience is ready to grant it or not. Meanwhile, Cody crying during a rom-com provided the necessary tonal relief, a reminder that vulnerability is only acceptable when it's wrapped in a punchline. The cumulative effect is predictable: swollen eyes, lingering sentiment, and the inconvenient realization that General Hospital has been delivering unusually strong work over the past few days. Of course, the episode still made room for suspicion, because trust is not part of the brand. Kevin, in particular, has been radiating an unsettling energy that feels less concerned professional and more plot complication in a cardigan, especially where Laura is concerned. The hope is that this unease is misplaced. The fear is that it is not, particularly if the trajectory involves collaboration with Sidwell. In the end, the episode didn't merely aim for emotion, it engineered it, and then stood back to admire the damage. General Hospital spoilers suggest Jack Brennan is in hot water with a few key powerful people in Port Charles right now. He is bent on making sure his secrets from Carly Spencer don't see the light of the day, possibly because he actually cares for her, possibly because she's just another piece in this overarching plan. Either way, a leak has sprung and is making its way around social media that Jack is going to meet his maker soon. A death in the new year would be more welcomed if it weren't for the fact that a lot of us have grown to like the guy, even after we swore we wouldn't when McKenna replaced Charles Major. His chemistry with Carly is the kind we crave, and his death would possibly leave her with more questions than answers. That is, unless she's the one who kills him. Carly has been keeping the secret that she knows about Jack's secret for months now. She's not comfortable in their relationship, and a sleuth like him can tell. Still, it hasn't dawned on him that Jason Morgan told her the truth, and she is just playing him right now. That would lead him to question her endgame and find out she has been crafting a plan with none other than Valentine Cassadine. In the end, Carly may be so viciously angry at this man that she doesn't just act in haste and whack him, but actively seeks to be the one to do it. She's going to need a whole lot of healing headed her way if that's the case. Breaking things off with the man who lied to her and knowing she will probably never get the whole story as to when his play began will be hard enough. But carrying the weight of the murder of a federal agent is a whole other bag. What lies ahead for Carly with that kind of rap sheet, even if no one ever finds out it was her? Of course, it goes without saying that Jack has more than his fair share of enemies lurking out there. We haven't even met them all. If Cyrus Renaud is really alive, as many have speculated, and he was a part of Jack's ploy to compromise Jocelyn. Joss is Jack's. Then Cyrus could flip the script and lose it on Jack. Anna Devane could find out Jack was behind her capture, or at least knew of it. Valentine certainly has a bone to pick with the guy and wouldn't mind murdering him. General Hospital spoilers leak. Anna Devane is bent on finding a way out of captivity, even if it gets her killed. Penning every one little thought in her notebook and praying the signs she is being given that imply Cesar Faison is alive are nothing more than her imagination running away from her. Still, it's been weeks, and Anna doesn't know why she was taken against her will, by whom, or if she will ever get out. So her best bet is to start working the case to determine the weak link for trying to get out the chains that shackle her. Will Jen's Sidwell's Christmas party on Spoon Island be the big backdrop for her to break loose from? Anna is the perfect person to play this game of strategy and figure out what is likely the only way out of this scenario. If she wants to break free from the dorm-style room she's been kept in for some time now, she'll have to get comfortable with the idea of now knowing exactly who she is up against, but expecting the worst. If it is Faison, she may have a bit more of an upper hand because she knows his playbook and how he thinks. Given that Pascal is Anna's butler in charge, it makes sense that she is probably tucked away somewhere at Windermere without the faintest idea of where she is. But if she breaks out this week, it could make for spectacular timing during Sidwell's Christmas party. Just imagine Anna showing up in sweats at Sidwell's Christmas party. Everyone there is bound to have some questions about where she has been, why she is showing up there, and what her disheveled appearance means. But thinking this through a bit more, how could Sidwell possibly survive it? If Anna blames him for kidnapping her and holding her against her will, he could be looking at the rest of his life in prison for imprisoning someone else. But she's not just anyone else. She's a member of law enforcement, and harming them often comes with higher sentencing penalties. With Anna back in the mix and Sidwell blamed for taking her out in the first place, would he be chased out of town, or worse, relegated to a jail cell? Fear not, fans of Sidwell. This bad guy has more than a few allies up his sleeve to make sure that he gets everything he wants. Don't forget that Sidwell now has Sonny Corinthos under his thumb, and Mayor Laura Collins too. It's pretty simple. If Sidwell wants Anna's narrative of what has transpired to go away, he may have to pull some strings with those connections. But honestly, are either of them going to help him? General Hospital spoilers remind that Willow Tate Kane's demeanor toward her new hobby, Drew Kane, has been changing on the regular. The man she fell in love with is nowhere to be found, or at least she doesn't know how she ever fell for him. Since learning he had an affair with her mother, Nina Reeves, Willow hasn't been genuinely interested in him. Confiding in her mother Nina, as well as Ava Jerome, Willow shares she's only with Drew to use him to get her children back. But will she be able to put up with him in the meantime? It's entirely possible that Willow walks away from this situation unharmed. As hard as that might be for some fans to consider, Harrison Chase isn't off base here, suggesting that the PCPD is overlooking a few pieces of the puzzle, especially as they relate to Michael. His alibi isn't all that strong, considering the source. In the end, he could lose more than Willow herself, given how far he went out on this limb for her. Will Chase come to regret his decision if Willow turns out to be much more malicious than he thought? Somehow, Drew can't tell that Willow no line feels the same way about him as she used to. Maybe she is his blind spot. Either way, Willow is using Drew for his power, wealth, and clout. She will do anything to get custody back of her babies. Learning that he was blackmailing Portia Robinson seemed to have a profound effect on Willow's feelings toward him. To add insult to injury, hearing him threaten to restrict Alexis Davis's access to Emily Scout Kane because he is upset with her management of Willow's case was horrifying to Willow. How long can she pretend to love? If Willow is found to be not guilty of shooting Drew and then goes on to later do the guy in, it's still possible she could be charged with the new crime. But new evidence arising from the old one won't matter, and using a not guilty verdict in this trial to try to paint her guilty in another won't fly either. General Hospital recap for Friday, December 26th reveal Alexis Davis and the Davis girls got unexpected guests, and Sonny Corinthos played Santa. Also, Gio Palmieri accepted his unexpected gift after Leo Quartermain inadvertently found it and brought it to him. Willow becomes Scout's safe place. Alexis and the Davis girls find comfort at home. Tracy's grief for Monica lingers. Sidwell's party sparks tension. And clashes. Gio's Christmas gift heals old wounds. Drew Kane called Martin Gray to manage the media response to Portia Ashford's court claim about his blackmail. Willow Kane sadly gazed at the gifts for Wiley and Amelia Corinthos still under the tree. She hugged Scout Kane when the little girl expressed her sadness about not giving gifts to her grandma and aunts. Drew smiled at the moment, unaware of Scout's distress, while Willow frowned as Drew continued his phone call. Willow reassured Scout that she would ensure her gifts were delivered. She also shared that she missed her kids. "I miss my mom a lot," Scout cried. "But it's different. I know I can't see my mom, but I could see my family, if only my dad would let me." Later, Drew ended the call and got ready to leave for the party. Willow suggested taking Scout to her grandmother's instead of leaving her with a sitter. Drew was confused why Scout didn't express this wish to him, and Willow had to explain that Scout felt very alone. Drew reminded her that Alexis can only see Scout if she wins the court case. Willow didn't want to be the reason for Scout's unhappiness and suggested he view it not as giving in to Alexis, but as a gift for Scout and for her. Tracy Quartermain was trying to read quietly when Wiley and Leo interrupted her to show a frog they found in the stables, but the box was empty as it had escaped. Michael Corinthos and Brooke Lynn Quartermain helped the kids search, while Cody Bell tried to calm Tracy and persuade her to let the kids keep the pet. Tracy agreed, but the frog had to stay with Cody. Michael found it, and as Brooke Lynn took everyone to the kitchen to decorate cookies, Leo said, "We should probably wash our hands first." Brooke Lynn told Leo he read her mind. Tracy wanted to pay Cody to take the kids to the stable for the afternoon, but he said he needed to see Molly Lansing Davis to thank her for helping him on Christmas Day. Tracy mentioned she wanted to revive one of Lord Larry Ashton's traditions and celebrate Boxing Day, but complained that Olivia Quartermain had turned it into a bake-a-thon and lamented that Monica Quartermain wasn't here to take charge. Cody gently suggested she focus on those who are present instead of those who aren't. Christina Corinthos Davis and Molly visited Alexis after Christmas, but she had to work. They worried she was overdoing it since court was closed until the new year. Alexis said her gamble with Portia Robinson failed, and now Drew was angry and wouldn't let them see Scout. Christina knew the case was crucial, but insisted she needed a break to eat noodles and watch a movie with them. Molly agreed that stepping back could help, and Alexis finally gave in. Later, while eating, Alexis paused the movie, and they talked about finding true love when someone knocked at the door, Molly answered, but quickly hid when she saw it was Cody. Alexis and Christina laughed as Molly tried to fix her hair before opening the door. They invited Cody to join them for Noodle Buddha, and Alexis and Christina left them alone for a while. Cody asked Molly to celebrate the new year with him, and she happily agreed. Later, while watching the movie, Christina answered the door, and Alexis was thrilled to see Willow had brought Scout. The Davis girls shared a big group hug as Willow smiled from the doorway. Lucas Jones dressed up to celebrate Boxing Day with Marco Rios and his family, excited to join the tradition. Jenzu Sidwell welcomed Lucy Coe, and she thanked him for the diamond earrings he gave her for Christmas, as Pascal announced the buffet was ready in the dining room. When Lucy questioned the need for a buffet for just 2 people, Ava Jerome entered the hall, revealing she was also there, and asked Pascal for a martini. Later, Ava gave Lucas a cocktail and encouraged him to relax, but he felt anxious about not ruining things for Marco. Lucas mentioned he liked living with his boyfriend, but thought Pascal was a bit creepy. Ava agreed, but reassured him that he would feel more at home soon. When Jordan Ashford got there, Sidwell told her that Drew and Willow would arrive soon, and they needed to talk about his re-election amid the chaos. Lucy mentioned to Marco that Lucas was a good person like his dad, whom she was briefly married to, so she was happy to see them together. Ava told Jordan that even though Portia was her friend, she wasn't taking sides in the Robinson-Ashford issue and only cared about Trina Robinson. Lucy tried to interrupt Sidwell and Ava's conversation, but Ava noticed a bust on the mantel and started bragging about the antique. Jordan found it funny as Lucy attempted to join in. Sidwell went to greet more guests, and Lucy and Ava clashed over their host. Kevin Collins smiled at Laura Collins as she hurried through her to-do list for the family party, promising not to let Sidwell ruin their holidays. She opened the door to Charlotte Cassadine, Rocco Falconeri, and Lulu Spencer, who brought an extra guest, Sonny in a Santa hat with a sack of gifts. Laura was glad to see him, and he was pleased to see Rocco doing well now that the situation with Henry Dalton was resolved. Laura questioned if their actions were worthwhile, and he assured her they were. Later, Kevin offered Sonny some cider and expressed gratitude for his help with Laura's car trouble when he was unavailable. Laura thanked Lulu for bringing the kids, and they both felt relieved to see Charlotte and Rocco in good spirits. While playing a board game with Ace Cassadine, Rocco noticed Charlotte's cheerful mood, and she quietly shared that she had seen her father. But when Lulu approached, she quickly invited her mother to join them, causing Rocco to look worried. As the party went on, Lulu joyfully took photos of the kids playing and of Laura and Kevin sharing a kiss in front of the tree. In the Quartermaine foyer, Ned Quartermaine praised Olivia Quartermaine for handling Tracy's hostility this holiday season. She replied that she has grown to love Tracy, and they both love him. The doorbell rang, and Ned welcomed Emma Scorpio Drake and Gio. Michael told Tracy that the frog was safely in the stables and confirmed he made the call she requested. Tracy welcomed Gio and was glad to hear things were getting better between him and his parents. Sonny showed up at Michael's invitation, feeling a bit taken aback that Tracy allowed it to happen. Ned, with a chuckle, informed him that the package had finally arrived. Wiley, in a friendly gesture, offered Sonny some cookies and excitedly shared that he had received tickets to see the New York Yankees for Christmas. He told him he wants to attend the game with his father and grandfather. Meanwhile, Brooke Lynn kindly offered to step in for Tracy if she wished to find a quiet spot for some privacy amidst the bustling crowd. However, the matriarch firmly stated that she wanted to uphold Monica Quartermaine's cherished tradition of opening their home during the holiday season. Leo rushed in with a violin case to tell Ned he forgot to give Gio his gift. Olivia tried to make her son put it back, but he insisted it was for Gio. Sonny said he and Ned bought it and were waiting for the right moment to give it to him from his grandfather's. Leo didn't get why they wanted to wait, and Ned explained they wanted to wait until Gio wanted to play music again. Wiley said Tracy would love to hear him play since she's been sad, missing Grandma Monica like they all do. Leo suggested a song might help everyone feel better, and after a tense moment, Gio took the case from Leo. He carefully opened the case and took out the instrument, then made his way into the hallway to have a moment of solitude, tears streaming down his face. Brooke Lynn approached the doorway and paused, her mind racing back to Gio's emotional explosion at the nurses' ball when he shattered his violin upon discovering the truth about his biological parents. She instinctively reached out to place a comforting hand on his shoulder, and after a brief moment, Gio returned to the living room to perform "O Holy Night" for the gathered family. As he concluded his heartfelt rendition, Tracy expressed her gratitude, saying, "Thank you, that was beautiful," before wrapping her arms around him in a warm embrace. General Hospital spoilers suggest that Nathan West has immersed himself in Port Charles life once again. He's officially gotten his career back, is working on building a relationship with his son, James West, and now it looks like Nathan may dive into a romance that could complicate things. Actor Ryan Pavey recently talked about Nathan's next love story with Woman's World. More on this below. General Hospital spoilers remind fans that Nathan's great love was Maxie Jones. However, he's yet to have any interaction with her as she's been in a coma. With that said, he's spent a ton of time with her bestie, as of late, Lulu Spencer. During his Woman's World interview, Pavey noted, "It's always good to have a love interest on a soap, and Nathan could certainly do worse than Lulu." He added, "Will we or won't we? We have a lot in common, so we commiserate. And there's definitely chemistry there, so I'm interested to see." It's important to note that Pavey did not confirm that the soap was planning on pairing up Nathan and Lulu, but fans can't deny that if they did, things could get steamy but also complicated, considering Maxie is Lulu's best friend. It's hard not to remember that Nathan, Maxie, Lulu, and Dante Falconeri were quite the bestie super couples back in the day, and thick as thieves. Pavey noted during the interview that he enjoys working with Bruening. He had nothing but positive things to say about his new scene partner. Nathan and Lulu have gotten closer, and since both of them spent time away from Port Charles. Thanks to Lulu's coma and Nathan not having a memory of where he's been since everyone believed he was dead, they share a unique bond. General Hospital spoilers for the week of December 29th, January 2nd hint that the two will bond more, so it'll be interesting to see just how close they continue to get. General Hospital spoilers tease Dr. Portia Robinson is really in for it this time. She never imagined all of her personal life would be put on display in court, but Alexis Davis begrudgingly had a field day grilling Portia on the stand until she had to give it all up, Now the whole world knows she slept with Dr. Isaiah Gannon, her employee, and that she may be pregnant with his child. Of course, the baby may be Curtis Ashford's as well. The painful road ahead towards determining whose baby is on the way will be rife with complications. But will Portia even think twice about the lab results? One would think Portia would be so thorough as to have multiple tests run with as little involvement from the potential dads as possible. One would think Curtis has had his fair share of difficulties with Portia's lies too, and that he would want more than one test done. But something tells me Isaiah will know about all of them and figure out a way to fix them to ensure the result says he is the father, even if he isn't. On the flip side, Trina Robinson is still reeling from the very idea that her parents are splitting up. She can't stand it, and so badly wants to fix it. Even if she's furious with her mother right now, the last time they found out they had a child together, it brought them back together. Could that work in their favor again this time? Could Trina excise Isaiah and Jordan Ashford from the picture merely by fixing the labs to make sure Curtis is the father, even if he isn't? Last but not least, I keep wondering if this is the point in time where Heather Weber returns. Remember the last time we saw her? She was saying goodbye to Ace Cassadine, but promising she would be back. The tone in her voice as she whispered to him told us all we needed to know about whether she was truly healed or still completely insane. What if this is payback for Heather? What if she returns and alters the paternity test so that Portia ends up raising a baby with the wrong man, only to find out later that it was wrong?